In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
On3 reported this morning that there's growing concern among boosters about the direction of the program. Just what level of conversation have you had with them, and what would be your message to reassure them?
Yeah, I mean, my message is that our team I think we got a really good football. I think we got a good football team that can do some big things still this year. We got to prove it. We got to go do it. And to this point, it's been just me being able to focus on football. And, I appreciate that.
Kalen DeBoer, Alabama head coach in year number 2. Game 15 in Tuscaloosa, and that was coach yesterday on the SEC teleconference call. It's an every single week call. Welcome everybody. Simone Eli, Gerhard Mathangani joining you on this Thursday for Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard, it's been a minute. I'm not sure in the time that I've covered Alabama that the head coach of the Crimson Tide sounded so uncertain. And I think that when you hear Kalen DeBoer, like you just did a moment ago, after being asked about Alabama boosters, you start to wonder, is there an issue going on in Tuscaloosa that he is starting to really become worried about, that maybe he's seen unfold that isn't just what happened on Saturday?
I'm going to make a point that you made yesterday, the fact that he's so even keel about a lot of things that I can't really tell in that response how much he is worried. Yeah. However, I do think that if he's defiant, it's ridiculous because the fans have a genuine concern. Yeah. He's 5-5 in his last 10 games, Simone. Yeah. He's lost to 4 not ranked opponents. Nick Saban did that in more than 200-something games. Yeah. He beat like 100-plus in a row of unranked teams. Yep. So I think that the question is fair. Yep. And so I think that he cannot go in with his chest puffed out saying, well, those boosters don't know anything, and out football talk them in the brain because of that reason. Yep. So yeah, I do think there is genuine concern. I can't tell a lot in his voice there, but I do think you're right, that the fact that it doesn't sound as confident as probably it once did. No, it doesn't. And one thing you have to remember is that just a week ago, this same guy said he had a great team. Yeah. He said he had a great week of practice. Right. Said that they were in a better place. I mean, Kane Womack said they were further along, throughout offseason than he thought. I mean, they saw something in practice, in preparation for Florida State, that they felt good about. And then they laid an egg, and then we're now seeing backlash, which, of course, the Alabama fan base, it will never be patient. Right. Not after, they call them spoiled, call them what you want. Yeah. Not after what has occurred there. So stepping into that job, there's going to be a demand for not just excellence, but excellence fast, for it to be continued excellence, for it to be stacked on top of each other. That makes you go, okay, well, this just got real really, really fast. Yeah. And Kalen DeBoer seemed unprepared in a way for that question in that moment as well. And what I want to bring up is the fact that, yes, the question was asked, but I want to give you the context, because we think of boosters as people that just drop a lot of money in and they have unrealistic expectations. Sure. Let me give you the quote that he was referencing in this On3 article, because the booster wasn't there to ask the question. He said, quote, "We're spoiled. We always have been." Some self-awareness there. But when we put a team we put a team out there that looks uninspired, and we've had far too many times over the last 2 years, and we lose to teams that we're clearly more talented than, then that's when it becomes a problem, not just a bunch of spoiled fans griping. I think that is the clearest point ever. Yeah. And from that booster who's coming out and saying, yes, like, we might be spoiled, but two things can be right here. We can be spoiled, and we can go out there and watch an uninspired football team be disappointing week after week. I agree with you on all points, and I disagree with one point that he made in the context of that quote. So yes, I agree. It was uninspired. Yes, I agree. The effort was a problem, and it's a problem that we're going to break down over the next, half hour of this show with several people bringing on to talk about Alabama and Kalen DeBoer in the current situation. However, is Alabama more talented than Florida State? By whose judgment? Yeah. And why does an Alabama booster get to say that? Right. Does he know ball? No.
And then we can
You might
point
be
to
just looking at some rivals
then we can
rankings
point
and,
to
you know.
okay.
Right. Yeah.
And we know how those typically go.
Correct.
Nothing against our friends, that put rankings out there
Yeah.
for high school athletes
Yeah.
or whatever. Then we can start talking about, is there an issue in getting top talent there? Then we can start talking about what I saw on social media today, which was AJ McCarron saying Alabama's NIL is 20-some million, and other schools have 40-some million. And, okay, right, like, everyone thinks the House settlement limited schools to 20.5. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
They said, yes, schools are limited in paying up to $20.5 million to their athletic departments. They didn't do anything with collectives. Those are still there. Those are existing. Those are boosters. Those are those folks.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they're going to have an opinion, and they're going to have an opinion that matters more now than it's ever mattered.
Yeah.
Because they've got the money to help fix the roster. So, is there an issue in the talent that's getting brought into Tuscaloosa? Is there an issue in the effort that's being portrayed there in Tuscaloosa? We will continue to break this down over the next, several hours, a couple hours here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Yeah.
We are going to talk to some great guests today. Looking forward to having them on. And that includes former Senior Bowl Executive Director Jim Nagy going to join the show. Of course, now the Oklahoma GM. So the new general manager position is one in college football that matters more than it's ever mattered. It was something they kind of rolled out, but nobody really knew what it was, and now everyone knows what it is. And even G6 schools are starting to have some GMs. So we'll talk to Jim coming up in our second hour. Nick Kelly is going to join the show here in just a little while. Of course, AL.com reporter. He was with us on Monday talking about the is it over-exaggeration? How much do we need to be concerned about this Alabama loss to Florida State?
Yeah.
So he'll join us here in just a little while to break down the Kalen DeBoer situation. Scott Griffin, our friend up there at CBS 42 in Birmingham, going to join the show here in just a few minutes to talk about Alabama's upcoming game, of course, against Louisiana Monroe. Maybe chat a little bit of Auburn and what's going on with the Tigers as far as them getting their home opener there in the Plains. And then Holden Cruzmark will join the show from Oklahoma City to wrap things up later on today as well. But plenty to discuss, Gerhard, and it is certainly a wild time to be having conversations about coaching hot seats in week 2, but welcome to the SEC.
It is the SEC, and I think it gets crystallized in the kind of games that Alabama had, because you had a game against Florida State, and it almost feels like, Simone, this might be unfair, it almost feels like it doesn't matter what happens in week 2, because you're playing La Monroe. It could be 60-6. It could be 34-0.
Everything is on the microscope.
Everything, it still feels mute. I don't know where the win is outside of on the scoreboard. I don't know the win is psychologically this upcoming week. So we might still have these questions going into next week because everybody says that this is supposed to be the week that you're supposed to get this win anyways.
Yeah, no question. And again, you have to go, everyone is going to, whether you won or lost in week 1, everyone's going to say, here, we finally have tape. We finally rolled something out there. Here's where we can get better from week 1 to week 2. So again, we'll have plenty more talking Alabama and the situation going on there in Tuscaloosa in just a little while. But want to chat about some news that came out today. The new College Sports Commission has cleared more than 8,300 name, image, and likeness deals worth nearly $80 million. This just came out today. The commission, which of course is in charge of approving contracts worth $600 or more between college athletes and third-party companies, said that more than 2,800 student athletes signed up for NIL Go platform between when things launched there on June 11th to now. Then there are tons of people cashing on in this, Gerhard, and in form of representatives and agents and things like that. 3,200 representatives and agents saying, hey, I have a law degree, and I'm an agent now, and I can best represent you when it comes to the NIL. That's a lot of money in the college game, and man, people are really cashing in on what this new age looks like.
This feels a little bit more like structured cryptocurrency, where you have a pool of money that's just out there, and now you have a lot of people getting their hands in this piece of the pie here. And a lot of this is the failures of the NCAA, and a lot of this is just like what Coach Saban has talked about for a long time. There were just no guidelines. I think there was a way to do this, but now it's just become this exploding market. And now we have hard numbers to put to it. And then, like you said, you have hard numbers to put to people who are coming in as agents and as, It's
happening in the high school game. We talk to people all the time that are sitting here and saying, hey, we want NIL to come to the state of Alabama, which is, of course, where we're based, because I want to know why, because you want to cash in on these high school kids. And again, that's a different conversation entirely in terms of whether NIL actually comes down to the high school level in Alabama. It's happened in other parts of the country. But when it comes to college sports, man, there is more money with what is happening now. And if you either have it or you don't. And if you don't, you're probably not winning a lot of games.
No, and you won't have enough collection of talent to be able to win a lot of games. But it is good. In my opinion, I look at the glass half full on this because what I do see is more than 8,000 opportunities for athletes to be able to make some money while they are student athletes.
Sure.
And now, yes, the number is huge. But that number used to be 0 on paper. Obviously, we know that stuff was still going on. But it does let you know that there is an economy out there that is now being tapped into. I just did not know. Honestly, had you told me 5 years ago when all this first got started with Ron DeSantis, LeBron James at first in California, then Ron DeSantis, all that. By the way, LeBron James, when him and Gavin Newsom signed that deal, you know when that was supposed to start? This year. It was 2025.
That was how long ago at this point? 3 years?
Yeah. It was like, what was it? I thought it was, they started in 2024, 2025. I thought it was like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And then DeSantis come out and said, no, it starts in 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the
3
domino
months
effect
were like 3 days.
that.
It was like happening like the next day or 3
hours. I could be wrong on the
fast.
date, but I know when it first got started, the initial date was set in the future, a couple years in the future. And then DeSantis was like, hey, this looks good.
We're going to expedite this.
Let's start
Yeah, we're
now.
not giving credit to LeBron and them out west on doing. I mean, listen.
Right.
Ron DeSantis said we're doing this, and either we're going to have a lot of ballers, and everyone else is going to suck, or something. But, speaking of ballers, how about this? So there's been a little bit of it doesn't take much in terms of how the college football season for things to get a little bit dramatic, and Mike Gundy is in a little bit of a tiff with our guy Dan Lanning.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like both of them for different reasons, but it's just funny to see these two kind of have some moments here. And this is Gundy has pretty much said that he believes, he speculated, that Oregon spent $40 million on their roster this season or last season, and that Oklahoma State spent only $7 million, and then went on to say there's coaches and teams with a lot of resources, and they should play similarly resourced opponents. You know, a lot of like complaining, and these two kind of had a little bit of chirping going on. We're gonna take a listen to what these two had to say.
Yeah, it sounds like there is. Listening to him talk. Like I said, I got a ton of respect for Coach Gundy. Ultimately, how blessed are we to be in a place that's invested in winning? If you want to be a top 10 team in college football, you better be invested in winning. And we spend to win. Some people save to have an excuse for why they don't, right? And ultimately, like, he's a great coach. They've done an unbelievable job, but I want to be a team that's competing at the highest level. And we're really fortunate to be in that situation. So I can't speak on their situation. I have no idea, what they got in their pockets over there. I'm sure UT Martin maybe didn't have as much as them last week, and they played. So we'll let it play out.
Okay.
Oh, man. First of all, there's like coaches. It's kind of like coworkers. There's coworkers that I'm going to voice complaints with, and there's coworkers where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let you have that. I'm going to let you have that. And that's a lot for me because I like to voice complaints with a lot, but for a lot of folks. But there's some people where you're like, you know what? I'm going to say something, and Dan Lanning is not the guy in the college football realm who I'd want to say something, about directly or indirectly. And then on the other end, Mike Gundy is so loved and respected and just his own figure in his own right that this is kind of not the battle I would have thought we would be seeing in week 2 of the season.
No, not same here. And Gundy might have put his foot in his mouth when he was talking about this. And the irony cannot be lost on anybody. That is Mike Gundy talking about this. Mike Gundy, whose program was funded by the late, great T. Boone Pickens, who pumped millions and millions and millions of dollars into that program. Now, I know that T. Boone Pickens has not been with us since NIL got, ushered in and whatnot. But this is not some, Sisters of the Poor program here. Yeah. Now, I know that, Oregon's got that Phil Knight, that Nike money, and it is pumping in hardcore.
No doubt.
But Oklahoma State is one of few programs that should be talking and complaining about other programs having money.
What I love about Dan Lanning, several things, but one thing I really love about Dan Lanning is that he and I try to be this way a little bit too, is that you really get your last dig in the last line.
Yeah.
And he did that there so well. I'm pretty sure UT Martin had a smaller budget or whatever it was. Yeah. And, of course, that was a 20-point ball game that Oklahoma State won. But more like, this dude's watched the tape, and that game was played on Thursday. It's been a minute. So there's a little bit of a shot. And, this is what makes college football great, college sports great in general. But, so Oregon, Oklahoma State will play on Saturday at 2:30. Oregon's in the Big Ten now, and Oklahoma State, I don't know what conference they're in. So it's all weird, but, whatever.
And I don't know why Oregon's become like the kind of like the poking and prodding. Do you remember Kirby Smart did the same thing.
Yeah.
He said something about Oregon as well. So
Yeah.
it just feels like Oregon is the money giant that
Oh, well,
everybody
they are that, yes.
takes shots at. I just find it interesting how many times the name Oregon comes out of a coach's mouth, and Dan Lanning's right there to fire it back.
Oh, yeah,
as you
and
said,
that is
some quips.
he is going to. And he does it like with a smile on his face, which I love
sure.
so much.
For sure.
All right, guys, we're going to keep things rolling here on Southeast Sports Plus. Going to take a quick break because coming up next, we're going to chat with our guy, Scott Griffin, joining us live in Birmingham out of CBS 42 as we head over to our Next Star Nation guest to talk Alabama, a little bit of Auburn, and see what's going on with Kalen DeBoer in T-Town. We'll have that and more in 2.5 minutes. Welcome back in, everybody. Simone Gerhard, Mathangani, Patrick Walsh joining you as we roll right along here. Southeast Sports Plus on this Thursday. Alabama in the headlines, of course, after the loss to Florida State. The Tide dropped down to 21st in the country in this week's AP poll. We're going to bring in Scott Griffin, the sports director there at CBS 42 in Birmingham. Scott, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I know that it's a wild time right now, week 2, as Alabama looks to try to right the ship, preparing for Louisiana Monroe. What's your latest just thoughts on what is going on there after this loss to the Seminoles?
Well, what is going on is, and by the way, good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you having me on. What's going on is obviously 5-5 in their last 10. I think it's deeper than just that, though, and the caliber of play, which was anemic and pathetic and whatever other adjective you want to use Saturday.
Not wrong.
I think it's Kalen DeBoer is his own worst enemy. I don't know if you guys have talked about this, but when he's in a press conference, and I brought this up last year, because he's one of those guys that's so effervescent with positivity that he doesn't give you the real lay of the land, right?
Yeah.
So he's constantly, and you saw him get bit by that. I'm sure you guys saw the press conference where the reporter, I think it was Chase Goodbread out of Tuscaloosa News, asked him about, you said you played great last year or practiced great last week leading up to the game. And he goes, did I say that?
Yeah.
So that told me he doesn't even know what he says. He's on automatic pilot. Every day is a great practice. And Simone, you're married to a football coach. Your husband doesn't come home and say, today was fantastic.
He ain't done that.
Right?
He ain't done that since we were in Mackinac there, Scott. Listen, man, it's been a good minute since we've had that type of response here in the Sessions household. Don't get me started on that right now, but you're not wrong.
But you know, right? You live it.
Absolutely, and you're right, and you're right. He is not doing himself any favors when he paints this picture of all these rainbows and colored, beautiful skies, and that's not really what is taking place. And then I would add to that, Scott, when you're following somebody in Nick Saban who was so precise and brutally honest at times, and knew, I mean, almost to a point where it was like rehearsed but not rehearsed, and knew what he was going to say, and then you bring in, and now you have the same media members, and you have a guy who is maybe not being as forthcoming in some things, and then he's going to kind of eat his words when things don't go well.
No, it's definitely what's going on. And then now I see that he's still on automatic pilot, because the words now were, and supposedly, as you guys know, the reports were they had a very physical practice, blah, blah, blah. Player got hurt during practice. So they were obviously more physical, going good on good. But he was even saying, okay, so now they've got the message. We're a good team. And I'm thinking, you think this thing is fixed after a Monday practice, dude? Seriously?
Yeah.
You guys were pathetic.
Yeah.
It's not fixed. There's a culture deal. I went out on a limb and said he's Brian Harsin 2.0.
Oh.
So far. He's Brian Harsin 2.0 so far is what I think. Now, and I'm sure you guys have read the John Talty CBS Sports column. If you haven't, he kind of intimates that there's some insiders that say DeBoer doesn't worry about mental toughness and the difficult things, as you were talking about, that Nick Saban ate up every day. And he thinks he can really outthink and out-scheme everybody because he's got good players, obviously. So, boy, when you think that and you don't really focus on effort and all that kind of stuff, you are asking for trouble. As you guys know, this is the SEC. It just means more, all the corny things they say, but it really, truly does. You cannot hide and get away with anything in this league.
You're not wrong.
Right?
You're not wrong.
I mean,
Scott, I was going to ask you a question to see. Basically, I was going to ask if you thought this was fixable, because everybody keeps saying the right things, and Coach DeBoer is saying the right things, and Coach Womack is saying all the right things. I was going to ask if it's fixable, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think that you think that even if it is fixable, they won't be able to fix it because of his style of coaching. Brian Harsin had a lot of success at Boise State, or Buffalo, Boise State, I think is where he came from. And then Kalen DeBoer obviously had success at Washington and Sioux Falls and other places. Are you correlating those two successes not being able to translate in the pressure cooker of the SEC?
To me, and this is just my personal opinion,
Sure.
it gets down to everybody's got talent in this league.
Yeah.
Look what Vanderbilt did to Alabama last year. Diego Pavia was fantastic.
Right. Yep.
He's the Vanderbilt quarterback. Okay. Yeah. So everybody's good. Everybody's got a quarterback. Some have played, some have not, but they're all talented. And yes, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, since they've recruited well lately, that they've got a few more 4 and 5 stars. But as you guys know, everybody in this league has players.
Yep.
So you can't run and hide and halfway do it and not be motivated, and you just can't do it. And I think that's it. I think you can do that in other parts of the country. That talent, even when it shows up unmotivated, unrehearsed, unpracticed, I don't even know if that's a word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yep, unpracticed.
That you can still win games.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that in the SEC. And as Simone and I just intimated about her personal experience, I don't think you can do that in Alabama high school football.
You can't.
To be honest with you. So it's just different here.
Different. It is. The expectation is different. And like we said off top of the show, Scott, fans are not patient. Some may call it spoiled. Some would call it what you want to call it. The pressure is going to be the pressure. There's no question about that. I'm going to have our producer, Patrick Walsh, play the Kalen DeBoer soundbite from the teleconference that we heard.
Which one? Which great one?
Yeah, that exactly. From the teleconference from yesterday. I wanna play that, Patrick. Give me the thing. He's got it. Okay, so we're gonna play that quick. And Scott, want your reaction to this question here from the teleconference yesterday.
On3 reported this morning that there's growing concern among boosters about the direction of the program. Just what level of conversation have you had with them, and what would be your message to reassure them?
Yeah, I mean, my message is that our team I think we got a really good football. I think we got a good football team that can do some big things still this year. We got to prove it. We got to go do it. And to this point, it's been just me being able to focus on football, and I appreciate that.
So. The first thing that I take away is uncertainty, unpreparedness for the question. Of course, it's always strange when you aren't talking, you aren't looking at somebody, and they're responding like the teleconference setup is. But that was not a very confident answer, Scott, and it really does make you wonder how many legitimate conversations are happening with boosters right now in week 2 and game 15 of the Kalen DeBoer era here in year 2 he's been in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, it was not a great answer to your point. And what they want to hear, as you know, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, is that won't happen again. Yep. We were bad. We had pathetic effort. That's my fault. It's on me. It won't happen again. He never says that. Yep. It's always, well, we got a good team, and, we've got to go do it, and all this, very soft, lumpy stuff, and it's just not going to come across well. I thought it was interesting, though, the last part of the quote where he says it's almost like he thinks he's being stretched in too many directions. And maybe we see that with him constantly giving weekly press conferences to Ryan Grubb and Kay Womack, and that he just wants to be a football coach. But again, you're in the SEC, man. You're at Alabama football. If you didn't want the scrutiny and the prodding and everybody questioning everything you have, including black shirts on the sidelines, then you shouldn't have taken the job.
Amen to all that.
Yeah. So he hasn't said the right answer yet. But to your point, it was very interesting to hear that instead of just coming out and being very frank and going, it won't happen again.
Yep.
Right? I mean.
Yeah, and how much do you think of that plays into the way his guys actually play on the field? Do you think that there's any semblance at all between those two things, between just the way that he presents himself and the effort that we saw, that he questioned himself on Monday and on Saturday? Do you see those two things combining, or is it just, Florida State was a one-game sample and they're on to bigger and better?
But it's not a one-game sample. To me, they're 5-5. Right?
Yeah.
And 2 of the 5 losses were by 14 or more. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what the Vanderbilt score was, but if it wasn't 14, it wasn't close.
It was Vanderbilt.
To me.
It was Vanderbilt, and it was a loss. So that's all that really matters on that one. So.
Yeah. So that's 3 of the 5.
Yeah.
And you lost 24-3 to Oklahoma, who was very average and had tons of injuries, as you guys know, and didn't have any wide receivers. Mm-hmm. And then you got clocked by FSU, who was 2-10 last year. what is going on here? You're Alabama.
Yeah.
So to answer your question is, boy, I just think it's a soft approach. And we've heard the rumors, you guys have read it like I do, that there's DoorDashes going on at the team hotel. I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Yeah.
Even girlfriends coming by the hotel, supposedly there's rumors of all that kind of stuff. I just know they're very soft in the things that I see. So are they soft in all ways? And again, is it connected? Well, it's got to be connected. He's leading the football program.
Yeah,
right.
And Scott, I think
so. He's the one that can change that.
Yeah, and
at the snap of the finger.
And I think that we're in times right now, guys, where you have to figure out how to be a player's coach while also maintain discipline, and that's not an easy thing to do. It's hard to do with my 3-year-old. How do I get him to feel loved and not spank him on the behind when he needs it because he's giving me
still
attitude.
Having boundaries.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Okay, and it's a hard balance. And nowadays, because we've gone so far off the rails with the transfer portal, and guys can leave in a second and play in the same conference like the next year without any penalty, you have to worry all the time about who you're going to make mad, and then you don't have a guy, and you're sitting there and you got problems because you don't have your players, and then you really can't win because you don't have the talent, and you've made somebody mad and they've decided to leave the program. So how do you balance being softer and still being disciplined and maintaining order, so to speak, with what's going on with your team? Nick Saban said, I ain't doing it, and I'm leaving.
Right.
And everyone else is trying to figure out how to do it. Right now, Kirby, I think Kirby's going to, at some point, he's going to become a rock and hard place because he wants to maintain the strong arm. This is how I want to be.
Right.
Is he going to lose guys because of it someday? We'll find out. Nobody likes to be pushed nowadays, Scott. They're soft.
No, they are. And, Kirby Smart, ironically, is going to be the closest thing we're going to have left to Nick Saban. I think players still want to be disciplined. I think they scream for it just in different ways. But to your point, there is a certain level and distance or marker, for lack of a better term, that you can go to, right? But before you get into being a crazy man and nobody wants to play for you. But I think you've got to recruit like a relentless warrior like Saban did and have players. He always said, hey, if you don't like it, I got another guy right back here that can play just as good as you. And you don't worry about it, and you still got to realize that you're Alabama. Sure, you're going to have guys transfer and not, stay there, and they're going to take a paycheck or whatever. Look what Caleb Downs did for Ohio State. He was completely happy and left. So why would you worry about keeping everybody happy would be my point. You do what you do. Be fair to the players, and then whoever wants to stay is going to stay, and you just recruit good enough where, all right, Tim back here is ready to go where Randy left because, he didn't like what I said. So I think that's the only way to handle it. Or, and you've probably heard your husband say this, you're going to be held hostage by your players. Yeah. And once you're held hostage by your players and their effort and all those kind of things, you got problems.
Yeah, you do.
Absolutely. On the field, there's Scott with Ty Simpson. We saw him for the first time. Lauded coming out of high school. A lot of people talked well about him, including A.J. McCarron and other former Alabama quarterbacks. What did you make of his debut and just some of the ways that you see him over the course of the next 11 weeks?
I thought it was ludicrous that they had an 8-minute 50-play drive to start off the game with 12 runs out of 17 plays and just forgot about the runs. Ended up with 29 rushing attempts, 9 by the quarterback. So I take those out. 3 by wide receivers. I take those out. And I think that leaves 7 or 8 runs the entire rest of the game after you just ran it down their throat. I don't understand that. To your point, Ty Simpson, did he play great? No. Did he look scattered and his eyes dropped, when the rush came? Yes. But why would you have a guy that's thrown 50, 53, whatever it was, career passes, and he almost matches that number in the first game?
Yeah.
When you were running the football? That doesn't make sense. I think the game calling was horrible. I think they panicked. The game was never out of reach, and they should have kept running the ball to help him and help their offensive line who was having issues. I thought that's what I mean. The whole thing was horrible, pathetic, even the coaching and the play calling. So it's hard to answer your question. it's hard to gauge him, right? Because I think he was put in bad spots. He played okay, but there were times, obviously, in the end zone camera where he didn't check down and take those. He was waiting on the Ryan Williams to get open in the middle of the field, and he got sacked, or he had to, throw it away, or the ball got batted down. So, did he play great? No. Did he play as bad as what it looked? I don't think that either. I don't think we know, but I know this: a guy that's had 6 career starts in the SEC and is really just now handed the keys to the car. You don't ask him to drive halfway across the country. He can drive to Atlanta, but and they asked him to drive across the country with the play calling.
Yeah, Scott, as we wrap things up, just looking ahead to Saturday quickly, Alabama obviously will welcome in ULM, which you've covered this team for a long time. It'll send a shiver down your spine if you're an Alabama fan. You think back to Nick Saban's first year, of course.
Yes.
And then, then looking ahead, of course, there's Wisconsin before they open up the SEC slate. I'm not even sure if I know what I'm asking you, other than what needs to happen.
I knew that's what you got.
What needs to happen? What needs to happen?
What are we looking for, Simone? I don't know what we're looking for.
Yeah, and then what needs to occur?
Yeah, so if they get to I think what you're asking is, Griff, if they get 500 yards and score 52 and it's 52-7, have they solved everything? The answer is no.
Yeah, right. that was my question.
That's what they should do, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to learn a thing. If they have great effort, okay, you had great effort now because you were horrible last week.
Yeah.
It's like getting back to your son. If your son does the right thing after you get onto him, does that mean he's going to do the right thing for now on? No, he did it right because he just tore up that rear end a little bit. So
that's right. That's
yeah,
accurate.
so I don't know what I'm going to learn from Saturday. I think to your point, we may have to wait till Wisconsin the next week.
Yeah, you're right. Scott Griffin.
I don't know.
Man, listen, wonderful input, hilarious. I appreciate it, sir. You've been doing this such a long time, so well respected in this state by us and just well beyond that as well. So thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward to catching up with you every week as we kind of gear up for the SEC slate right around the corner. But Alabama better get right or get left. That's what
I get ready. This is going to be bad every week. Sorry.
No doubt about that. You know what? This is kind of more entertaining, to be honest with you. What are we going to do? Sit here and just talk about wins all the time? This makes it more fun, at least. All right, Scott Griffin, appreciate it, sir. Thank you for joining us from the 205, and we will hear from you next week, sir.
See ya. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Scott.
Good stuff there, Scott Griffin. Listen, man,
Invoke
I love
the name.
He ain't wrong.
He invoked the name of somebody that I was like, whoa.
No, he said right. He said Brian Harsin. I went a little.
I was like, wow. Wow. But they're on similar tracks, where Brian Harsin was great at Boise State and he was great at Washington, and then you get to the SEC and things change up quickly.
And let's not forget what year it was, what week it was, that Brian Harsin was shown the door.
Yeah.
It was somewhere late year 2, but before it was over. So
yeah.
Then Cadillac came in and, well, things got a little crazy after that too. So it's Alabama, it's Auburn, it's the state's crazy, and so is the SEC. We're going to talk more about the Tide coming up next as we welcome in Nick Kelly from AL.com. We'll have that after the break. Stay with us.
You mentioned the great week before the game. Just how much do you self-scout the preparation before games? And are there times as a coach where maybe you notice during the week that things might not be going the way that you want them to?
You said, what do you mean, great week?
A great week. You said a great week of preparation.
For this week, you're saying, or are you referring to last
going
week?
Going up to Florida State before that game.
I said that?
You said that, yeah, before.
Oh, just,
yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, I think our guys did. I mean, defensively, I felt like that we were pretty honed in. Gone back and actually looked at the practice film on some of the reps that we took that were pretty much identical to what we saw, and just trying to figure out, why were we one step or what, why was our communication just a little bit slower? So it's just, again, these guys have already shown me yesterday how bad they want it and how they're going to respond. And so, I really feel like the tone in the locker room after the game, at least from my standpoint, and how I can address the team is completely different than it was a year ago.
All right, they're here, Kalen DeBoer, speaking earlier this week in regard to their preparation toward Florida State, questioning what it is that he actually said. We're going to welcome in our guy Nick Kelly with AL.com. Nick, appreciate your time. I know that you are swamped right now dealing with all of the drama, fallout, call it what you want, with the Alabama Crimson Tide. You follow there for AL.com. Nick, what are your takeaways on what the last 3 days have looked like for Kalen DeBoer? From when we last spoke on Monday regarding the loss of Florida to Florida State and having to rebound and figure things out, now are we having some lost in translation, confused? Is Kalen DeBoer, what's going on there in your opinion?
Yeah, a lot, frankly. I mean, there's just so many things swirling right now. And I think that, to be honest, he's probably working around the clock. And it's a lot in his mind as he tries to right the ship. Because, there are some just confusing and baffling things about what happened. Because I do believe him when he says the preparation was good and that they prepared well. I mean, there's no reason to believe that they didn't, but there was some kind of disconnect on the field between good preparation and even in just forget the week leading up to the game. It seemed like a good camp. It seemed like a lot of guys were playing well. And people who saw scrimmages that I talked to, whether it's people who were around practice scrimmages, whatever it might have been, were impressed. And these aren't people who had not seen previous versions of Alabama football. I mean, this was not their first exposure to a football team. And so I think a lot of people are surprised. Where's this disconnect between good preparation, good practicing, and what we saw on the field in that Florida State game? So I think he's got a lot in his mind. He's got a lot to figure out and figure out how to bridge that gap because, they still have a lot of good talent there and a lot to play for still. So I think he's trying to figure all that out.
Nick, do you think that at this point, and letting the dust settle a little bit for a couple of days, there are some rankings and polls and things out there now that are putting Alabama at like a 7, maybe 7-win season? I mean, is this straight overreaction, or is that valid because of what we saw at Florida State? And then, if you don't mind, what's your opinion on what this might look like, 12 weeks down the line?
Yeah, here's my take on this. If they play like they did against Florida State every single game, then 7-5, here Alabama comes. But they still have a lot of season to play, and not only that, but they can reverse course on what they were doing. I mean, that's the good news and the bad news is that if they don't reverse course, there's a lot of games left of that. But again, the talent is there. I mean, these are not a bunch of 3-stars or walk-ons that are playing this game for them. These are talented guys. I think there were some things that we talk about effort, that just mindset, things that you can fix, but no doubt it's concerning it wasn't there, but you can fix these things. So, I mean, if they replicate that, it's not going to be a good season, but I'm not ready to write off the season completely just yet because of one bad performance.
Specifically to the defense, do you see the questions about the effort? And I think there's a lot of people and a lot of players who just kind of hit it head on about the effort and then watching themselves on Twitter jog to a play. Do you think that this defense can see themselves on tape and see the talk on social media and be embarrassed enough to correct it? Or do you think that this is a character trait of this defense that will hurt them moving forward?
Oh, 100%. I believe that they know that it wasn't up to par. And the fact that it's being essentially put out in front of the world to see film-wise, I mean, of course there's embarrassment. These people are humans. You're young men. And so, they're going to be embarrassed. But the thing is, nothing is more dangerous than an team. That was a quote that I heard recently, and I think it's so true. I mean, this is a group that, yeah, it was embarrassed, not only for what was on the field, but also what has been in the media, on social media ever since that game. So I think this group probably was pretty embarrassed, because how couldn't you be with the way they lost some of those plays that were put on the field? You talk about embarrassed. Look at that one play where there was a Florida State offensive lineman, or I think maybe a tight end, that put a defender on his butt. I mean, plays like that just kind of make a guy look silly. I mean, of course you're embarrassed. Yeah. And the fact that they would have been embarrassed by a performance like that, I can't help but believe that that's going to motivate them. So that is the good news. When you get embarrassed, it's pretty easy to be motivated after that.
Nick, a minute ago we spoke with Scott Griffin, sports director there at CBS 42, and he said something that sent Gerhard and I out of these chairs, and that was that we may be looking at Kalen DeBoer as a second, rendition, so to speak, of a Brian Harsin. Well, there's a million things that I'm like, oh, that's strong. And the part of why I feel that way is because people didn't like Brian Harsin. Nobody likes Brian Harsin. The guy just rubbed people the wrong way, he just didn't fit. Okay, I don't really view Kalen DeBoer like that. That doesn't mean that he's going to win any more games than Brian Harsin didn't win when he was on the Plains. So I don't want to demonstrate what Scott was saying. I think he's saying, hey, they brought in somebody who replaced a longtime coach. Now Gus is not Nick, and we all agree on that. But they brought in a guy who did not trend things upward, right? So in that way, so far, yes. 5-5 in the last 10 games. Kalen DeBoer, okay, I'll give him that. People didn't like Brian Harsin. People like Kalen DeBoer. I think they like him. And I think that helps him. I think that's a good thing. He's handled the transition of having to take over for somebody of Nick Saban's stature as best when it comes to just the optics of it. Yeah. Then you got to win games. That's not really taking place right now. Is there a future for Kalen DeBoer in Tuscaloosa long term when you hear things like boosters are unhappy, and then you get a response like we did at the teleconference yesterday where he was just very uneasy sounding and unprepared? And I mean, Lord Almighty, if Nick Saban got asked a question when he was unprepared, Nick Saban was ripping behind of the people on his staff. Like, he was prepared for any question that was coming. And it seemed like Kalen DeBoer was caught off guard by the question about the boosters and the On3 report.
Yeah, I mean, that a lot to unpack there, going from Brian Harsin to the boosters there.
That's a good point. But that's why he got out too. That's why he got out, though. But listen, it's not, I mean, that's why Brian Harsin ended up not working, because all the boosters over there said, sayonara.
Yeah, well, going back to the Brian Harsin comparison, I think it's an easy, convenient comparison to make, just because it's a recent one where a guy got fired who came in from out of town, so to speak, who came in from a different region. But I will say, Brian Harsin did not win at the same level that Kalen DeBoer did.
No question.
And he did not come in. I mean, he was a winner at that level in what he was doing, but he was not doing what Kalen DeBoer was doing. He had not just come out of the national championship game. So it's not apples to apples. Two, I've not spent a lot of time around Brian Harsin, but I spent enough time around him to say that you get a different vibe from the two of them. They do have different personalities. They're not the same person.
No question.
Just because it's not, and I say this as someone who's not from the South, but just because you're not from the South, it's not like there's only one personality type that you'll find beyond the borders of the South. So, yeah, they're not the exact same kind of person. Yep. Kalen is very likable.
Yeah.
And that's a great quality to have as a human being. Doesn't mean he's going to be a good football coach here at Alabama. I don't know that.
Sure.
But you can't say he's not likable, because I think most people would say he is likable. Now, what it means in terms of what it looks like on the field, we'll see. I'm not ruling out him working, but I will say that there definitely is some unrest among some boosters and some financial backers, just out even past that article that I've talked to of the program, that, yeah, what has happened is not acceptable, to be losing those games where you come in highly favored like they have on the road. It's a pattern.
Yep.
And so I think there is some thought for the first time that, okay, maybe this won't work, but that there's a difference between people thinking, I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, and then this guy needs to be gone. So I think there's a bit of a spread or a spectrum there, if you will.
That's really interesting. And for me, I want to go back to the leadership of this team. From the players that you talk to, whether it's Deontay Lawson or Ty Simpson or Parker Brailsford, these guys that are the leaders of this football team, what's the essence that you're getting from them as it relates to their season moving forward? Because everybody is going to point the finger at the head coach because he's the consistent guy. But the players and the fielders are the guys that are executing. What do you make of what the leaders are saying? And if it's just kind of like the coaches are talking? Is it just word salad, or do you believe it's real?
Yeah, I believe it's real. I think that what's hard is that a Kalen DeBoer type isn't going to be fiery. I mean, he's just not the type of guy. I mean, you look at what he comes from in terms of going back to Sioux Falls. His mentor, who was a bit of a legend around there, his coach, and then his boss eventually, a guy named Bob Young, who's since passed. But, I mean, he was not the fire and brimstone kind of coach. I mean, he basically led in a way that you didn't want to disappoint him. And that's very similar to what Kalen does. Yeah. And you see that. And so I think it's hard in moments like this because you don't see that loud, that angry, the pounding of the lectern kind of guy, but that's just not who he is. So do you want him to be fake? Maybe some fans want him to do that anyway and be performative.
Just
but
make him feel good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's not authentic, though. So I can tell you that if he was doing that, it wouldn't be authentic based on what I know about Kalen DeBoer. Yeah. As far as your question about the players, I mean, you can sense they're frustrated. You can sense that those messages of the effort not being good enough. I mean, what defender wants to hear that their defense was playing timid and hesitant? I mean, those are the labels that Kane Womack used to describe the defense. So you know they're frustrated. And again, if you think we outside the building know these things, of course the players know these things. I mean, they're not oblivious to what was put on tape. And if they were oblivious to what was put on tape, they're going to be shown what was put on tape by the coaches. And I think Quay Russaw put it along the lines of you wouldn't have wanted to be in there in that film session after that game. So I think they're very aware, and whether that translates to a lot of wins or not, I don't think it's going to be for a lack of awareness and them trying to fix it.
Yeah. Nick Kelly, AL.com. Really, really appreciate your insight and always a really, really nice illustration of what is taking place there in Tuscaloosa. And we will find out if things can get right quickly on Saturday. Then, of course, Alabama will jump back into Power 4 play once they play Wisconsin. Nick Kelly, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to having you on the show as we move forward with the college football season, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. You know it's bad if I'm on twice in the same week. So I mean, it's that level.
I said we got to get Nick back in here. Listen. I mean, things are going well. We'll get you one month. Things going poorly, we're going to get you twice a week. So we'll see how things go. Maybe we'll see more of you. Maybe we'll see you less. So.
There you go. There's the barometer for it. That's how you can measure how the season's going.
That's exactly right. Absolutely right. All right, good stuff. Nick Kelly, AL.com. Guys, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, Simone Gerhard-Patrick joining you back, and it was an hour of talking to Alabama Crimson Tide, and it flew by right now because things are in a very weird place right now with the Alabama team. What is it going to look like going into this ULM game? We'll find out Saturday evening. Appreciate Scott Griffin joining us from Birmingham, Nick Kelly with AL.com, two guys who have known this program and followed them very closely for several years. Coming up in our next half hour, guys, we are going to make the rounds over there at Oklahoma. We're going to welcome in a good friend of the show, former Mobilian, in Jim Nagy, the general manager of the Oklahoma Sooners, and check in with our guy Holden Kruzmark there in OKC for the latest on Oklahoma gearing up for Michigan in a top 20 battle there. We'll have all of that and much more coming up in our next hour on Southeast Sports Plus. Stay with us.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Welcome in, everybody. Southeast Sports Plus, Simone Eli, Gerhard Mathangani, joining you for hour 2 of the program every day, Monday through Friday, from 2 to 4 o'clock. And here in Mobile, we often get to meet a lot of really cool folks, Gerhard. And, sometimes they move on, and then we don't get to talk to them in the regular capacity that we had. And then sometimes we get to reel them back in and say, hey, come join us. That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to welcome in our good friend, Jim Nagy. Of course, the former executive director of the Senior Bowl and now the general manager at Oklahoma. And wow, first of all, what a really cool office you've got going on over there, Jim. How's life, man? It's so great to be chatting with you and to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be on with you guys. It's feels like old times, but no, it's been awesome out here. This is obviously a big week. A lot of buzz starting in Norman already with College Game Day is setting up a few hundred feet away from the facility, and it's just a lot going on. It's been a fun week so far.
Jim, we got some video in house of you strolling the sidelines in Oklahoma's Week 1 game. Here you are. Looking fly, my guy. Looking silent, profiling in the big win there over Illinois State to kick things off. Of course, Oklahoma is ranked in the top 20. Things going seemingly well early in the season. How did it feel? How did it feel to be on a college football sideline in a totally different realm than what you've had for the last several years?
Yeah, it was great. It's been great since March, since I got here, just to be back around players and coaches. You guys know that. You guys are both athletes, so it's great being around coaches and players again. It has been, and game day was special. I really enjoyed I loved my time there at the Senior Bowl. It was incredible. Wouldn't trade it for the world. But to have something on the line on Saturdays again is that's what it's all about. So we got a big one this week. Big season ahead of us, but yeah, last week was special. It's been a long time.
I think a lot of people talked about just how special this year could be for Oklahoma, given all the changes. Ben Arbuckle comes in as the offensive coordinator. You have a new quarterback there in John Mateer. Now that there's a game under their belts, what are some of the things that you saw that you really like that they can continue to move forward? And it felt like the offense still has meat on the bone, so to speak, because Jaden did not play very, very much in this game, and there's still so much untapped potential, so to speak, with the squad.
Yeah, there was certainly more good than bad last week. I'll say this: I'm glad we had that tune-up game with Illinois State. When I was in scouting, I loved those Week 1 matchups where it was two power programs against each other because. I would go to the game in Atlanta and then Charlotte and Orlando and New Orleans, and you'd go 4 games in 4 days and see 8 teams and a lot of great players. But now that I'm on this side of things, it's a little different. I'm glad we didn't start right off with Michigan. But no, I thought John did a lot of really good things. Keontae Lewis, Jaron Kanik, some guy kind of off the radar guys for fans, stepped up and played really well. Deion Burks, who everyone probably did expect to play well. Was on our Senior Bowl radar, last year. He had a big game as well. So, yeah, there's some meat left on the bone. We didn't run the ball as well as we would have hoped. We get some offensive linemen back this week. Jaden Knotts looks like close to 100% health. So it's something we're going to have to do. We're going to have to run the ball better this week than we did last week.
Jim, before you were the GM at OU, and before you were the executive director of the Senior Bowl, and before you were in the NFL and have Super Bowl rings and all the things that you've done, you were a young guy there in Ann Arbor going to the University of Michigan.
Big Blue.
And we know that that's always, like, I went to Bowling Green. That's always going to be in my heart, right? Gerhard went to JSU, so he's a Gamecock for life. Okay, so in a capacity, right? You are always, Michigan somewhere in the depths of your history and your past and your fandom. However, we know you're obviously loud and proud there with the Sooners now. But how long did it take after you decided you were going to take this job, maybe even before? Did you go, wow, this Week 2 game is going to have some extra special meaning when we match up against my alma mater there in Norman?
Simone, you can't get away from the fact. I mean, I spent 4 great years there, got my education there, really formative time. All of our college experiences were formative times. But it probably had more significance when I first took the job and saw the schedule. Oh, my gosh, we're playing Michigan this year.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that way now. Now it's about these players and going through this offseason with these guys and the coaching staff and seeing all the hard work they put in. I mean, it's not even about that anymore. Like it truly doesn't feel like that. And, Sharon Moore, the head coach at Michigan, is played here at Oklahoma. So I've heard his interviews this week. They've tried to, ask him about, being an Oklahoma guy coming back. And
that's what we
being
do in the media, Jim. Lord Almighty. I mean, come on now. That's what we do.
No, but and I agree with Sharon. I mean, this is about, the guys. I mean, it's all about the players, and they've just put in a ton of work. So it should be, a great time. I was actually back in Ann Arbor a year ago, last August. So whatever that is, 13 months ago, I spent 4 days with the team. They rented out a big hotel for fall camp, and I stayed in the hotel. I was with the players every day as we're on the coaches. So I feel like I know that team pretty well. A lot of great kids in that program, and they've built it the right way. They're tough. They're blue collar. Mm-hmm. They know how to win. Like there's an expectation level there after the last 4 or 5 years of, unbelievable success. Yep. I mean, that's a team that knows how to win football games. So, but it's not about that, man. I'm so excited for these players to get in a big time atmosphere. I mean, this is why you come to a place like OU, and that's why you go to a place like Michigan to play in big stage games like this. And now we got to go kick it off.
Jim, that really tees up what I was going to ask naturally, and that's how much should we really enjoy this type of matchup right now? Because it seems like an Oklahoma-Michigan type of matchup, a top 20 before you really kick off the SEC slate type of matchup, is not going to be something that we regularly see moving forward with the change in times, with the parity in sport, but even probably bigger than anything with the change in the SEC schedule and moving to a 9-game slate moving forward. And we might see less and less of these huge P4 non-conference battles early in the year. How much should fans just really enjoy what the treat of what we get to see in the current stage of college football?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, just from a fan's perspective, I mean, I love games like this. Yeah. These are the games that even if I'm not fully invested in the program, if I didn't go to school there, I mean, these are the ones I get on the couch for. Yeah. Like the other night, I made sure I got home and saw a good chunk of that Notre Dame Miami game. Yep. This is what it's all about. 2 iconic brands. What I didn't know that Michigan and Oklahoma, don't quote me, I want to say the 1976 Orange Bowl was the only time these 2 programs have ever met.
Really?
This is the first time Michigan's ever come to Norman. So I just think it's cool when you've got 2, blue blood programs, 2 iconic uniforms, helmet combinations, all that stuff. It just makes for great TV, makes for great entertainment, and hopefully we'll show the fans a good game on Saturday.
I love it. I want to go behind the scenes for a little bit, Jim, because there were some comments today from the guys over at Stillwater, Mike Gundy to be specific, about the Oregon situation, how they have $40 million, and Kirby Smart took some shots at the Ducks last year. What are some misconceptions about the money that's going on in college football right now, and what are some of the things that they have right? Being a guy from your perspective that knows the way that all of this is done at a power school in a power league.
Well, I'm certainly not going to complain about it because I took the job back in March. We're embracing this thing, but I will say some of the changes with the rev share cap that's being put in place for next year, obviously not in place for this year. So this was the last year where teams could just spend however they wanted to spend, and chalk it up to fake NIL and get these players paid. So hopefully it'll start to level out across college football. And again, that should create more parity where you just can't rely on like one rich donor to fund a program where you basically have an owner of a college football program or something like that. So again, hopefully that's, we're going into next year in a capped year, and it's going to come down to who scouts best, who develops the best, who allocates their resources the best. I think that's a place where I think most fans want the sport to be. And hopefully we're only a year away from that.
Jim, out of curiosity, how much are there conversations, as much as you're willing to kind of peel back the curtain, are they about money? Or are they about things? Because we were at Sunbelt Media Days, and there are a few teams in the Sunbelt who have general managers. And again, I understand that it's not the SEC, but this is a strong group of 6, whatever the number is now, school or conference. And they said, hey, it's not only these money conversations, but they want, 3-bedroom apartments, and they want their dogs shipped across the country, and they want, they want their mom to live in the apartment next door, and they want, like a lawnmower, whatever it is. Like, is that really happening? I mean, I feel like you shoot us pretty straight, so I feel like I have to ask you because you know what's going on.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that.
Please tell us the wildest thing that you've heard.
A lot of
please tell us.
There is a lot of families. Yeah, there's a lot of families living in the college town.
Wow.
There's cars. There's cars. There's there's a lot. Travel expenses for families to away games. Yes. Any perk. I think that. Yeah, any perk that an agent thinks he can make the deal look more attractive to his client is good for them. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I think there was a story today that said $80 million in name, image, and likeness, and I'm talking a little bit of a different realm, a little bit, not from just the school on down, but in NIL deals and these third party companies. $80 million that was approved by the College Sports Commission that came out today. It's a pretty big number, Jim. This is for real.
Yeah, it is for real. And it's a good thing. I'm glad that players are getting compensated. I know, Simone, you would have raked in a lot of NIL money in your hoop days back at Bowling Green.
I was the hometown hero, Jim. I was I didn't have any stats, but I was a hometown hero. Could have got some free donuts or something.
I mean, but you got that. You would have had that social media following, and that's a big deal in the NIL world. You got to have eyeballs. That's why Arch Manning, is making all that money. He's got all those followers. But no, I think this whole thing is great. Where it's got where the players are getting compensated. But again, from what Coach Gundy was probably getting at was just there needs to be a little more of a common ground, a little more level playing field in terms of the competition. And again, I'm in a school that has great resources, so. We have great support here at OU, and we're really one of the most passionate fan bases in the country. So, but I know there's a lot of programs that don't have that. Yeah. And, college football has been built on rivalries, pageantry, tradition. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the reasons that college fans like the college game more than the NFL. I feel like some of that might be in a little bit of jeopardy if some of these programs, if this whole thing isn't level set. You got just bringing up Oregon. You got Oregon and Oregon State. Those two schools in that state have much different resources, and they play that. They have a great rivalry game up there between the Beavers and the Ducks, and you never want to see games like that go away. So again, the closer we can get from a business model standpoint to level the playing field, the better off we'll be.
On the field once again with this Oklahoma team. What do you expect from John Mateer moving forward? We put all these expectations on quarterbacks as they go ahead. Obviously at Michigan, there's going to be Bryce Underwood. What do you expect from Mateer in this game and as they move forward into this season? Because it feels like he can be one of those guys that is one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in the conference.
Yeah, I just expect John to go out there and have fun and be the best version of himself. I mean, John's a great player. He really doesn't have to do more than he's capable of. He plays with a ton of enthusiasm. It's infectious. I can't wait to see him in this environment. He's a fun guy to watch live because he does things that are really exciting. There's been a lot of Baker Mayfield comparisons here in the Norman area in the state, and even nationally. I've seen some of that stuff nationally, and Baker was such a fun guy to watch, and John's got a lot of the same stuff. So I just want him to go out and have fun. He's put in all this work in the offseason. He's lived in this building. He's done an unbelievable job with his teammates and becoming a captain here in a short period of time. So now it's to, trust the preparation, just go let it rip and have fun. So he does. He's got all the talent in the world. I told John this, back before SEC Media Days, that if he does listen to, the media and pay attention, he might hear me saying some really good things, but I don't worry about that with John. Like some players, you say there's certain things about him and you worry it might get to their head. It's not going to happen with John Mateer. Like, he's a really grounded kid. He's just one of the guys when you're in the building. He doesn't hold himself, above anyone else. And, that he's built for the big lights. And Saturday there'll be some bright lights in that stadium, and I think he'll play great.
Jim, appreciate your time. Oh, couldn't be happier for you, but man, do we miss you here in Mobile, because of your role. I'm not going to ask like the 3, 4, 5 other questions I would like to ask about things throughout the league, but I had to remind myself that I can't do that because of your new position. So I can't sit here and just unpack all these things throughout the SEC. But back in the day, that's certainly what we'd be doing right now if you were here in Mobile with us. But couldn't be happy for you to see you there in Norman, and best of luck on Saturday. We know where your loyalty lies, of course, with the Sooners, and it'll be a neat experience, I'm sure, as a Michigan alum as well.
Nobody wants to beat these guys more than I do.
I believe it. I believe it.
Because there's a lot of bragging rights, and but no, it'll be fun. Saturday night. It'll be fun.
Yep, good stuff. Jim Nagy, thanks so much for joining Southeast Sports Plus. Looking forward to having you on again sometime later this year, man. Thank you.
Sounds good. Good to see you guys.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
Good stuff, Jim Nagy. Yeah, I had to remind myself. I can't go ask him what he thinks about Alabama, what he thinks about this, and what he thinks about all these things happening in the league, because now he's, in the league in a totally different role. And beforehand, he was like this overarching, I can talk about all of the current state of the state. And I'm like, I can't do that right now. So dial it back, sister.
And also, too, I think he understands the position that he's in, that he's now competing with all these guys.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to have any, I haven't put any, locker room talk up there if he's sitting here, talking about whatever. But anyways, good stuff. Talking with the Oklahoma general manager, Jim Nagy, longtime friend of us here in Mobile, WKRG, and longtime Senior Bowl executive director. Of course, the game is moving forward in great ways under the current new regime, but excited to have Jim here on the show and still in the Southeastern Conference. Guys, we have plenty more to come here on Southeast Sports Plus. We're going to take a quick break. SPG will return after the break. Say this. Welcome back in, everybody. Southeast Sports Plus, Simone, Gerhard, Patrick joining you. Guys, we are rolling right into week 2 of the college football season. We will have one in-conference game this week, but we're not going to chat about that right now. We're going to discuss what is going on in Florida. What will we see out of the Florida Gators gearing up for a game against South Florida this week? G, any thoughts? Patrick,
Sneaky trap game.
Yeah.
Yes. Sneaky trap game. South Florida comes in. They just got a big win over Boise State.
Yep.
And I said last week, I gave my little parameters about teams that come to the state of Florida. But Florida's got LSU the week after that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that this game is really interesting, because Florida comes in as a 17-point favorite. They played really well last week. It was Long Island. It was the Sharks.
Yeah.
But this is a trap game, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, we've talked all offseason about how tough Florida's schedule is this year. I mean, it's daunting. I mean, you look at it, 8-4, they might be the best 8-4 team in the country. But, I mean, you look at USF, going back to their game last week against Boise State. They were down 7-0 early, and then they scored 34 unanswered to just break it wide open. And, I mean, I don't think anybody really expected Boise State to be blown out by that much, but – you look at the bottom there, 3 rushing touchdowns. They got a mobile quarterback. And, I mean, with today's college landscape and how college football is, you got to have a guy that is not just going to sit there in the pocket and is able to get out and break free for
in a lot of ways. I would say that's true.
Yeah.
If you don't have a quarterback that can do both, you could be in trouble. That's not. I mean, I think that's a little maybe different if you get into the league sometimes. But it's always beneficial if you have that as an option.
Yeah, I mean, there's this called RPO for a reason. It's taking over college football, because if you have a quarterback that can bring that run element to it, then and obviously you have your running back as well. But the thing is that if you have a quarterback that can destroy you with this run game, then it really works out. DJ Lagway, he can do that. Didn't have to do that very much against LIU. Might have to do a little bit more.
Sure.
And how much more do you put on tape before the LSU game, which might be the true test there going into conference play for this bunch? So I think that the handling of this game plan would be really interesting for the way the Gators handle the Bulls, and I think the way South Florida comes out, they just come out. I mean,
there's nothing to
lose.
Come out
guns blazing.
There's nothing to lose, and that's the thing. You can get crazy. You can throw it down the field. You can try to get kind of outside and maybe rush the quarterback a little bit more than what you would do if you are obviously in conference, obviously playing for something that's going to keep you from winning a conference championship. And then, like you alluded to, a trap game possibly for Florida, are they kind of looking ahead? Are they looking ahead to that September 13th game against LSU? Because it's right around the corner. And I can bet you right now, Billy Napier, that's the only thing that he is talking about.
Oh, yeah.
But I can just tell you from experience as a player, it's one thing to hear it, and it's another thing to listen.
Yeah.
It's one thing to hear it, and it's another thing to listen. I can hear you say, don't look ahead. I can hear you say, take South Florida seriously, and I can do it anyway. Because I will.
And it could go right out the other ear.
You're right. And South Florida, don't forget, last year, or was it last year or 2 years ago, made Alabama very uncomfortable. That was last year.
No, it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay. Well,
it was in the rain.
So that was the.
I think it's just speaks to what we're seeing in sport right now. It's anybody's game.
Yep.
And that even means when they cut your pants down. You don't want to cut your pants down, Florida.
And I mean,
it'll happen.
These teams have met 3 times in their history, and it's steadily gotten closer and closer and closer each time. The last time they met in 2022, it was a 3-point game.
Yeah.
Florida narrowly escaped.
Yeah.
And I mean, coming from a guy that's played in sports before,
So coming from a guy who's played sports.
Okay.
Hit me.
Guy.
You said it. I'm just repeating what you said.
I know. When you win a game like they did last week against Boise State, who made the college football playoff last year as a group of 5, that does wonders for confidence and momentum.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. They have nothing to lose. They're going to roll in there. I feel like they might win.
Let me throw some stats at you guys, because Florida's defense over the last 5 games dating back to last year has been really nice. And it took me a little bit to crystallize it. They gave up 16 points to LSU. Lane Kiffin and company with Jackson Dart gave up 17 points. Against Florida State, they didn't have Castellanos, obviously, then. Gave up 11. And then in the bowl game to Tulane with a really good quarterback, gave up 8, and then obviously gave up nothing to Long Island. I just think that this Florida team is playing really well. And whatever Billy Napier is saying as far as in that locker room, I feel like what they were pre-DJ Lagway coming in, the first 9 games of the season when they went 4-5, and these last 5 have been completely different. So I said trap game on the very front of this discussion, but maybe their head is in the right spot going into it.
Here's the only thing I would offer, and as it relates to we're doing an SEC show and things of that nature. There's a reason that South Florida, speaking to South Florida, has gotten to a championship level contending program. Alex Galesh was at Tennessee under Josh Heupel. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who is a cut off the block he's probably going to be an SEC head coach someday. He's probably maybe he'll be coach at Alabama someday. Someone's going to record that. Someone's going to put that on social media, and I'm going to have to hear that a million times, and then it's going to happen. That's genius. That's what's going to happen. And I'm going to get hired as the director of player development or something like that. But anyways, all I'm saying is Alex Galesh has SEC experience. I think that speaking to, yes, of course, Florida has gotten better defensively. They don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. I mean, Billy Napier was on the hot seat as much as anybody has been. They've got it fixed. Alex Galesh right now has nothing to lose. And I think that when you play with experience in the league, and you have enough guys where you've reinvented your roster overnight, right. Alex Galesh is trending upward right now. He's got guys he likes. Can he go in there with this, hey, we're just having fun mentality and shake things up a little bit? It doesn't take much.
It doesn't. Have you seen Florida's schedule after South Florida? It is LSU, it is Miami, it is Texas, and Texas A&M.
Who's their AD?
Someone has it out for Florida.
I mean, that is a gauntlet.
I mean,
there is one bye week in between Miami and Texas, but still.
Gator fans should just be happy they won the national championship in basketball last year. I mean, after that schedule, that's just.
They should be. Man, it's gonna be rough.
All right, you know what? Let's play a fun game here. Okay. Speaking of that, let's just play. I'll write down everybody's predictions. Over their next 5 games,
right now.
South Florida, LSU, Miami, Texas, Texas A&M. Just give me a number.
Let me pull this up.
How many games do you think they win?
Let me look
at it. You think they go 4-1, 2-3, 3-2, 5-0, 0-5?
Okay. I like this. For some reason, I just typed in the wrong team.
Over the next 5 games.
I need to visualize.
I'll go ahead here and start.
Go ahead and start. Oh, I like that. I like take the initiative.
I like 3-2, and honestly, that's a win for Florida.
Who are their losses? Oh, yeah.
I think. I don't want to say they lose to USF. It's going to be a close game.
Right.
I know we're not doing our best bets,
I think
it's going to be a one-possession game.
Yeah.
I really do.
That's strong. If they lose to USF, they can go ahead and put 0-5 then, because they ain't going to do anything better after that.
I think, they definitely lose to LSU.
That was so strong.
So LSU and Texas?
Sorry, I just have no faith.
So
and LSU is my preseason SEC champion. What were you saying?
Yeah, what was the second loss? Texas, Miami, or Texas A&M?
I gotta go Texas. I think Arch figures it out by then.
I kind of agree.
Because I
don't hate that.
As much as I want to say Miami's gonna beat them, I think the depth. When you talk about the SEC, they've got depth. While Miami has Carson Beck, they just don't have the depth.
Mario Cristobal already found the 4-leaf clover and every other good luck charm possible.
Did you say that because it was Notre Dame?
Oh. Actually, no, I didn't. That's happy accident.
Oh, I thought that was why
happy
I
accident.
Did that.
No.
Okay, G.
All right. Over the next 5 games, you know what? I got them going. I was going to say 4-1. I can't do it. I was going to say 4-1. I got to go 3-2, but I have a different loss though. I have them losing to Texas A&M, and then I have them losing to LSU. I'm sorry, Texas and Texas A&M. They lose the back end of that. They'll beat LSU and they'll beat Miami and they'll beat South Florida.
Okay.
I'm
gonna go 1-4.
Ooh. All right.
Zero faith.
I think that they are going. Listen, South Florida. It's gonna be okay. They're gonna win that game. I think they lose 4 straight. We'll revisit this on October 13th.
I love it.
Looking forward to that. All right, guys. Coming up next, we're going to check in with our friends in Oklahoma City. Holden Cruzmark will join the show to chat about the Sooners game with Michigan and plenty more around the SEC as Southeastern Sports Plus continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back in Southeast Sports Plus. Simone Gerhard-Patrick joining you, and some breaking news in the college football world, guys. This just out right now. Several sources reporting that the NCAA has voted for a single transfer portal window, and it says that the Oversight Committee has voted to move to a January transfer portal window and eliminate the spring window. The lone transfer portal window would be a 10-day period opening on January 2nd. Of course, that's following the big bowl games that occur there in the early of the year. And this would change from what we currently have. In recent years, the portal has opened for underclassmen transfers in early December, immediately following conference championship games. So we've seen guys jump into the portal as teams are gearing up for bowl games or gearing up for conference title games. It's just been a complete whirlwind. Gerhard, we have spoken to coaches at length. I mean, you name it, and we've spoke. I mean, Hugh Freeze, the one that comes to mind more recently, about this clock needing to be changed because it was just not survivable, and it seems as though we're one step closer to having that come to reality.
Yeah, one of the major off-season moves that we've been talking about, like you said, with these coaches is just how much they have to balance, and there's so much that goes on in the month of December. Sometimes you have coaches balancing. We got a chance to talk to Butch Jones about this. You have them balancing preparing for a bowl game, recruiting high school kids, keeping guys out of the transfer portal, and if others are going in the transfer portal, having their coaches, look into the transfer portal to get guys in as well. There's sometimes schools that have 25, 30, 50, sometimes even 60 players that are completely different from December 1 to May 1, which is insane.
Yes, it completely is. I want to bring in our guy, Holden Kruzmark, joining us from Oklahoma City. Holden, this information just came out a little while ago. As we know, the transfer portal, one of the many topics in the ever-changing landscape of college football right now, but that people are discussing, along with NIL, what's going on when it comes to the cap money. That we talked to Jim Nagy a minute ago, the GM there in Oklahoma for you guys. What is your take on the portal window becoming just a 10-day period and it happening after the bulk of the main bowl games being played?
Yeah, I would just say thank God.
Yeah, I agree with
you. All the transfer portal windows are just very frustrating, I think, for fans and everybody else. I could speak specifically to in our neck of the woods, OSU. They played their spring game. They had about 4 different guys in the quarterback battle, and 2 of them transferred after the spring game, and they were probably the 2 that looked the best in the spring game. So I think, fans would appreciate the fact that, like, hey, like, I saw that guy in the spring game. He looked pretty good, and now he's just gone, or whatever
Don't
else.
buy a jersey.
And and I think that Mike Gundy and company would really like to have at least one of those quarterbacks as they go into Oregon with Haas Haney banged up, and Zane Flores is really their only quarterback that they've got. So I think Mike Gundy would really appreciate the the elimination of that spring transfer portal window. Although, and it worked out pretty well for OU's case, considering they got Jade Knott to come in late in that spring portal window. So, maybe Jim Nagy wouldn't mind too much about keeping open that second window, but we'll see.
Holden, listen, this is a SEC show, but when it comes to Mike Gundy's Mike Gundy. So we're just going to let that one go. We're going to dive right in there. He is, of course, Oklahoma State gearing up for Oregon this week. And earlier in the show, we ran some sound from Dan Lanning, kind of going back, and then the end of the sound was him taking a little bit of a shot at your Cowboys there when it comes to their game last week. What was your take on just the just kind of the bickering that's going on regarding, of course, Gundy saying that Oregon spent some $40 million on their roster, he's spent $7 million on his roster, and that there should be some more parity in terms of the money, and of course we know that's coming next year.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of funny, just fun little jabs. I think it creates some more excitement about the game, too, because I think most people are not expecting OSU to play this Oregon team very closely. So I think it adds a little bit more juice to it. Like, okay, let's see, what's going on. But, to Dan Lanning's point, they played UT Martin this last week, and I don't think UT Martin and OSU are quite on the same level when it comes to NIL and budgets and everything like that. So, Mike's never been one to shy away from saying some things, and but I mean, he's right. Oregon spends a lot of money. They got a good team.
They do.
Of course, the big game in the state of Oklahoma is over there in Norman. It's a big one against Michigan. I think it's probably the marquee game of the college football weekend. As this game draws closer, and you saw what John Mateer and the offense was able to do last week. You broke a guy named Baker Mayfield's record last week. Talk a little bit about the offense and what you saw out of them and what to expect against the Wolverines.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because you look at 35 points and you're like, huh, that's really all they scored against Illinois State. But John Mateer was awesome. And they kind of had a lot of long drives, so it kind of ate up a lot of the clock. I don't think they had too many empty possessions. They had 2 turnovers, which was kind of weird. But I think they'll get that, figured out as they kind of get a little bit more, familiar with everybody and stuff like that. It was, I think it was a good debut for them. I mean, you got to see Mateer throw the ball around a lot. And, really the big question mark, it would seem, is the running game. They didn't run the ball particularly well against Illinois State, but maybe part of that was because they didn't play Jay Knott more than just a couple possessions or a couple plays in the third quarter. So I think Jaden Knott's going to get in a little bit more this week against Michigan, probably a lot more compared to, only getting 1 touch against Illinois State. And this Mateer guy seems like he can really sling the ball. So I don't think they're too worried about being able to throw the ball. I think it's going to be whether they can run it against Michigan, because it's going to be the best defense that, Mateer has ever faced in his career, coming from Washington State and playing Illinois State in the opener. He's never played a defense quite like this. So it will be a pretty big challenge for him. I think running the ball will help him out a little bit if they can, mix it up a little bit and they're not relying on him to throw for nearly 400 yards again against a tough Michigan defense.
Absolutely. Holden, you teed this up perfectly. We will listen to the head coach and the offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, on Jaden Knott.
Jay Knott's in a great headspace. I actually got to meet with him this morning too, and Jay Knott's in a great headspace. And I'm excited for this week and watching him watching him practice and get him out there against Michigan.
Yeah, as I've said, he's one of the more explosive players in college football. I know he was banged up last year. He was banged up in camp, but looks to be close to 100%. And when he's at his best, we've all seen people that know his journey, what he's capable of. So he's a real weapon, and I think he'll play a real factor in, our season moving forward. So I'm excited about that, to have, another weapon like that, on our offense.
Holden, diving a little bit deeper into this Ott situation, and you addressed this a couple of weeks ago, just the fact that he was listed deep on the depth chart given his stature as a running back in college football. Can you speak to where he was during practice and the reason why not only did he have limited snaps in the football game, but why he was listed so low there on the depth chart?
Yeah, I think, he was banged up during camp, as they both kind of mentioned there. And so 2 of the guys that really got all of the reps in camp were Torrey Blaylock and Javante Barnes. And I think they kind of wanted to reward those 2 guys, for being able to stay healthy during camp and, give them a little bit of burn early on. I think part of it, this is just kind of my own opinion here, is that I think they know what they're going to get from Jay Knott. But they have about 4 other guys in that running back room where you're not really sure who can be the main guy behind Ott. And I think that was kind of one of the big things about this Illinois State game, is they were trying to figure out who could be that guy behind them. Based on the way they played, I think it's pretty safe to assume that they don't really view Javante Barnes as the guy that's going to be the number 2. He did not play very well at all running the ball for them against Illinois State. Torrey Blaylock looked the best, and he left the game with a shoulder injury. So that's a little bit of a tough blow for them and for Blaylock, who looked really good. He's a true freshman. Really highly recruited guy. They have another really highly recruited guy from a year ago, Taylor Tatum, who's also a little bit banged up right now. So maybe he could get some more reps going forward. But it kind of seems to me like it's going to be Jade Knott and Xavier Robinson against Michigan. I think those will be the 2 guys that get most of the carries. Maybe you get a little bit more Barnes. I don't expect Blaylock to be playing in this game, probably out for at least this game, maybe another couple weeks. We'll see just how bad the injury was. I kind of thought it was just like he maybe popped his shoulder out, but then they seem to be a little bit more concerned about, the injury and everything. So it'll be kind of interesting. I also thought maybe that the whole Ott thing was just a little bit of gamesmanship. They don't want to, put the whole offense on tape for Michigan to be able to kind of get a look at them and stuff like that.
Get a look from close on the sideline.
Yeah, we'll see. These teams are very, very skeptical. I mean, last year we had an interesting situation when we used to have our chopper. It was flying around Norman for some breaking news, and I guess they kind of circled around OU's campus, and we got a call from OU's SID saying, "Hey, you guys need to keep the chopper away from practice." And we're like, we were not filming practice.
KFOR is out here trying to scout the Sooners for somebody.
Yeah,
who
and they were playing. They were playing Temple that week, so it was like,
Texas. And I was like, that would have been a problem. That would have been an issue.
Yeah, we've got Temple on the live feed, and they're watching from way up in the sky, and they're really getting. Though I think they were really paranoid because they probably knew, based on how the offense went last year, that it wasn't going to be looking too good. But yeah, these coaches are paranoid, and so you never know. It could be a little bit of gamesmanship. They just don't want to put everything on tape for Michigan, make it a little bit harder on them.
Listen, Holden, I'll have a very quick story. But just last year, Gerhard and I were out at a high school football practice here in Mobile, and one of the guys associated with the program, he's not a coach. He's just a guy. I don't know. I don't know what he pays for. There's no telling it. I'm sure it's illegal for the players for him to be able to come and play at the school. He told me that the year before they had flown a drone in preparation for a huge region game. They had flown a drone down the road and like a mile high into the sky to see if this team's quarterback was practicing that day. I swear, leading up into this game. Is that a true story?
That's a true story.
And so, speaking to your point, yes, coaches are paranoid, and for good reason, because it's happening everywhere, and it's dang sure happening in Michigan's football program, and it's definitely happening all throughout college football. Holden, when you look at this matchup with Michigan, the word that comes to mind for me is opportunity, and that sounds cliche, but the reason I say it is for this reason. When you think about in December, looking ahead, and we have a 12-team college football playoff, and the SEC has beaten each other up, and whoever's there in Atlanta, they're going to have a good shot at being in. And then, okay, how many teams will get in for the SEC? There's no real set number at this point, but wins like this, wins even going all the way back to September, because they look at the body of work. They talk about all these things throughout the entire season. A win over the Wolverines for Oklahoma, if they were to be one of those teams that were right there on the cusp, are they trying to decide, the committee, if the Sooners would be in the playoffs? Seems like a win over Michigan could really, really pay dividends looking way beyond the year and way beyond the SEC slate.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think a win against Michigan really just, helps settle the fan base a little bit because that, to me, that's the biggest win right here, is because everybody's still kind of on edge, wondering, are they going to be good? Are they going to, stink again? I would say he was probably the biggest one on the hot seat until what happened with Alabama and DeBoer. But I think this win, I think this win would do a lot for just the belief in this team that, hey, it's different this year. We've got Mateer, we've got Ott, we've got a good defense once again. And, a win against Michigan would just really kind of, calm the nerves. And it's going to look good on that resume. Like you said, once it comes down to the wire, maybe OU sitting here, they lose 3 SEC games. They're 9-3. They got that win over Michigan. Maybe they, beat another good quality SEC team. They've got plenty of them lined up on the schedule. I think they've got 7 top 25 matchups based on the current AP poll, something like that. So they got plenty of opportunities to pick up some wins this season. And that Michigan game definitely will help them, coming down the stretch and as the committee's looking and making those decisions, because I think there's going to be some 3-loss teams that get in this, playoff.
I agree with you.
I find really interesting the matchup between Brent Venables' defense and Michigan's offense with a young quarterback. And we know when Venables was a defensive coordinator, he gave hell to a lot of young quarterbacks. What do you expect the game plan will be for this defense as they go against this quarterback in this atmosphere at night there in Norman?
Yeah, I would imagine they're probably going to try and rattle him a little bit early. I would also expect Michigan to run the ball pretty heavily and try to protect their freshman quarterback. And I think they know that. Venables talked about how, one of the big things for them is going to be able to slow down the run. And Justice Haynes looked pretty good against against New Mexico this past week. So they're going to have their hands full there. And that's really what they've been gearing up for. We talked to OU's defensive ends coach during the fall camp period, and he said that they've really worked on getting their D linemen built up for controlling the run game, and they've added a lot of size. They've had a lot of their guys bulk up for these moments, so this is kind of really where it kind of pays off against a team like Michigan to be able to stop the run and try to make a true freshman beat you. And I think they feel pretty good about that game plan if they're able to slow down the run and let Underwood try to beat them.
We'll find out. It'll be his first one on the road. Obviously, a huge atmosphere there in Norman, and a night game at that 6:30 kickoff there between Michigan and Oklahoma, a top 20 matchup this year. Holden Kruzmark, appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll look forward to breaking this one back down with you next week as Oklahoma gears up for this big one with the Wolverines.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Holden.
All right, good stuff. Holden Kruzmark joining us from OKC. That is definitely one of the premier games in college football this week for sure. I feel like we had several games last week, but this week that one's going to be circled by several folks.
Well, and I think it's really interesting because both teams had a chance at a tune-up game, so to speak, and we heard from Jim Nagy about him used to really liking the great game off the stretch, but then now kind of having that buffer game.
Yeah, because
really
on the other side of it now he's a team guy.
Yeah.
So he's got to feel like, hey, we need to be able to see these guys roll out there once.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of in the boat with Jim Nagy because you do see your best improvements a lot of times from week 1 to week 2. A lot of times you do get better games, these kind of games, in week 2.
That's true.
Than you wouldn't get there in to start the season. But obviously both are great.
Yep, a lot of teams looking to make improvements from week 1 to week 2, especially there in Tuscaloosa. So we'll break more things down here as we're talking week 2 of the college football season. Take a look around the league to see what matchups we have to look forward to. That's coming up in the next couple of minutes here. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back in, guys. Southeast Sports Plus. We're going to get a little NFL action. Patrick did change because when I first walked in today,
yes, he did.
He was wearing a grown man jersey, and he was not wearing a. I'm actually kind of disappointed.
You say grown man jersey?
It's a thing.
I don't know that. I'm too young.
You were.
It's a deeper conversation.
It's a deeper conversation. We'll have it. I'm not going to have it right now. We'll have it later. He was wearing. I love you, dog. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
I love
you.
you. I love you, bro. A lot. Okay, tonight your Cowboys are in action against the reigning Super Bowl champs. Yep. We have a minute and a little bit of change for you to give your hottest take about this game tonight.
I think the spread's 8.5. I think it's been moving between 7.5, 8.5. I like this to be a close game. If you go back to Dak Prescott's history against the Eagles when he plays, he has a really good record against them when he plays. Hint, I'm talking to you guys, Cowboy haters. Every time the Eagles have won recently, it's because, Cooper Rush has been at quarterback, Andy Dalton's been at quarterback. So, I mean, I just think Dak Prescott, he's going to lead the Cowboys to the playoffs. That's a win. Honestly, if you're a Cowboys fan, and the Cowboys make the playoffs this year, that's as good as a Super Bowl because next year you have all those picks from the Micah Parsons trade that you can just go out and use and really go all in. Maybe finally go all in, as Jerry Jones said last year and never did.
And coming up our next hour, we're going to have Patrick discuss all things the NFL.
It's I weigh 200 pounds, right? There's no way I could be a sumo wrestler. But you wouldn't crush my dreams telling me I couldn't be a sumo wrestler because I'm 200 pounds. This is game one. I'm not going to tell Patrick that his team's not going to the playoffs, but you have 3 wins this season, Max.
Okay.
We're going to revisit this tomorrow from 2 to 4 on Southeast Sports Plus. Guys, have a great evening, and we will see you then.